My name is Corissa, and I have been coming to hot yoga for about 40 days now. I quarantine hit, isolation lockdown. I was isolating very good, and then right towards the end I started saying yes to a lot of jobs as a kind of a catch-up, and I was having so many physically demanding jobs and driving cross-country that I started to experience muscle hypertension in my leg, so that when I started to try and stand up from seated position, sometimes my muscle in my hip would go out and would fail, so I would kind of fall to the ground. And that was I knew there was tension and bad things there, but that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, I need to start to work on this. So in addition to that, I was also starting to have a little bit of a depressive spiral, and so I knew that yoga potentially could help with both of those problems. I had tried for a long time to eliminate the depressive spiral that came along with the whole isolation thing that happened, but the hypertension was extremely new, and it took about a month for it to really progress to a point where I was incapable of tolerating it any longer. And I tried massage. I had been doing massage 2 or 3 times a week from a professional physical therapist, and that wasn't doing it. He had suggested some at-home stretching I could do. That wasn't doing it. I had previously done maybe one hot yoga class a couple years ago, and I knew that the heat really opened up and allowed me to get deeper. So I started looking for some hot yoga. I really appreciated coming into this studio that there was way less judgment towards your ability than other places that I had been, way less competitive energy, and it was just a really welcoming place that kind of was able to greet you where you were at physically, as well as kind of challenge you along the way in a healthy way to get you up to the next level. So I stayed. I intended to just do a challenge, and then I was really happy with it. So I'm gonna keep going. I believe it took about 2 classes. I know I felt good after the first class, but it took about 2 classes for me to realize that the hypertension I was experiencing in my hip had started to go away. And I noticed that particularly when I go to sleep, because it would prevent me from laying on one side of my body. So it was, I think, the 2nd or 3rd class that I realized that I was able to sleep more comfortably and not wake up as much due to uncomfortability. And I mean, I've got a mega Tempur-Pedic mattress, so it shouldn't have been a problem, but it was. So about the 2nd or 3rd class is really when I started to see a huge difference in my physical ailments. And then mentally, I started to feel a lot more energized, and it's almost like drinking coffee without drinking coffee throughout your day, and kind of just restores a lot of the energy that maybe you wanted, need, or looking for. And that took about, I want to say, between the 21 and 28 day mark is really when I noticed that big spike in energy gains. Now it's really wonderful. I'm getting better sleep, which is just leading to a whole host of awesome benefits throughout my entire being. And I also have been experiencing more consistent and stable energy throughout the day, which has been leading me to accomplish my tasks in a more upbeat and efficient fashion throughout my week. And I am blessed to be working from home, but I also have home projects too. So I've been able to bust out additional projects that had been on the agenda for a long time. So it's been a really wonderful blessing. And somebody who doesn't drink caffeine regularly, this has been a wonderful way to start the day and kind of kick things off and warm things up. Hi, my name's Corissa, and I've been coming to hot yoga for about 40 days now. I was suffering from pretty extreme muscle tension. I had been saying yes to a lot of physically demanding jobs as kind of catch up from the quarantine time when some of the jobs were put on hold, and I really exerted myself to the point where I could not utilize my right hip muscle to the fullest of its ability, and was having trouble sleeping on it, as well as when I would sit down occasionally. This was my turning point of when I needed it fixed, but I tried to stand up and my hip failed, and I fell and it totally failed, and I fell into it. And if I hadn't been ready to brace myself with my other leg, I would have hit the floor. So that was my big wake-up call to start looking into remedies for my ailment. And in addition to the physical illness or ailment that I was experiencing throughout quarantine, I'm a very people person, and not being able to be around people really affected me mentally. And I was definitely in the throes of a little depressive spiral. With the mental that I was experiencing, I had been experiencing that probably for a couple of months at that point, just a dampened spirit and not feeling like a go-getter like I normally do. And with that, I had tried healthier diet at home, and I didn't really experience too much of a shift. I also had been experiencing the physical ailment, and with that, initially I had been trying, once it started to fail and I started to fall out of the standing position, I went and tried to get myself some massage therapy, and I have a really good physical therapist that I go see sometimes. And so I went to him once, twice, 3 times a week, was just trying to have something work. He recommended a couple of stretches I could do at home in addition to the massage. I tried that on my own for at least a month and a half, 2 months. Nothing was really affecting it. I couldn't really stretch deep enough to impact the areas that were bizarrely hyper-tensed because of all the driving that I had done and heavy lifting. So that was alarming, very alarming to have to deal with. And at that point, I knew I needed to incorporate some regular physical activity that was beneficial for me. It was different from the things that I had tried previously. Stretching on your own is okay, but without real guidance, consistency is sometimes hard, or the depth that you choose to go to, or if your muscles aren't fully warmed up, you can't really get to a depth that you could if you were fully warmed up or in an environment that supported deeper stretching. And so the cold stretching wasn't really working for me at home. When I came to, I've tried hot yoga previously, eons and eons ago, and that one class really enlightened me to how deep a stretch that you could get. And so when the at-home stretching stopped working or wasn't working, I realized that hot yoga was probably a place that I could go if I really was serious about trying to stretch out whatever hypertension was going on. And Hot for Yoga certainly supplied the space to do that. Hot for Yoga was different. It had a community that was supportive in personal journeys and growth, and certainly a different type of yoga studio than I've been to. I was very deterred by the first Bikram class that I've ever taken because of how competitive and weird the energy was, in addition to it being very physically challenging on me. So coming into this space was really refreshing because there was zero competitive, zero negative feelings to beginners. I was able to just join the class. They've got a lot of modifications for people who are at any level of their yoga journey, and that was really beneficial because it just helped me kind of jump in, hunker down, and just start progressing up. And so now I feel very flexible, but initially I didn't. And so it was really nice to just have a supportive community towards not having to overexert yourself or stretch yourself deeper than you were ready for, just to kind of keep up. It took about 2 to 3 classes for my hips hypertension to go away. It took about 2 to 3 classes for that to happen. I did feel really good after the first class, and I know I slept pretty good that first night, but on the second and third night, that's when I really noticed that the stress and the strain and the yucky feelings of just super tight, and I couldn't even kick a ball because of how much tension was happening in my leg. And so that started to go away, and I was blown away by just that. And then sleeping got a lot easier because of being able to lay on my hip, which just increased a whole host of awesome things that sleep does. And at that point, I was stoked and just kept going. And it took about 21 to 28 days for my my mental ailments to really start to reverse themselves, and that was a really cool sensation. I had big, nice spikes in energy, and they were sustaining throughout the day, and it felt, when you start to exercise on this level, your body starts to crave really healthy food like eggs. Like, I get done with class and I just want eggs. So it was really encouraging towards shifting into a more positive and healthy lifestyle overall. So I would say that has all been an unexpected, wonderful benefit. Now that the hypertension in my hip and my mental fog or whatever we're gonna call it has been relieved, it's really just changed my whole day, because I'm able to be more productive throughout the day. I've got more consistent energy going on. I'm able to go above and beyond what my normal expectations were of my day, and increase productivity, as well as really helps me communicate more positively with the people in my space. And that has been a really nice, I think, effect on everybody in my household. And just without the tension in my hip, that has been a huge game changer. I love interacting with my dogs and being able to do things with my body outside. And so that turned the soccer games back on, the kick the ball for the dogs was back on, because my hip wasn't being shredded and hindered by the hypertension any longer. So, and just made the dog walks longer, which was wonderful. And so that's really, I think, the picture that I would like to paint for how it's going after. It's been a wonderful overall addition to my routine.